Hello! Today we are going to talk about subtracting decimals. First of all, let's remember what this big square represents. So we talked last time about the whole square is one whole, and each row in the box is going to be 1/10, and each tiny itty bitty square is going to be 1/100th. So let's go ahead and figure out what this picture represents. Looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. So I've got 7 in my 10ths place. And I've got 1, 2, 3 little extra squares. So I've got 3 in my 100ths place. Now let's take a look at the problem that we're being asked to do here. We're being asked to take this 0.73 and subtract 0.26. So we're going to think about this subtraction as taking away or eliminating in this first example. So when we do 0.73 minus 0.26, we are going to subtract 2/10, which means 2 whole rows, so we can cross those out. And then we also need to take away 6/100ths. So I need to cross out 6 little 100th squares. So here I have 1, 2, 3. So I've used up all of my spare squares. So now I'm going to have to go down into the next row and cross out some more. So we already did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. So now let's draw a picture of what we have left. So it looks like even though I messed with this row some, I still have 1, 2, 3, 4 complete rows. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that in my picture. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I also have some boxes up here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes. So I'll fill in 7 boxes in my picture here at the bottom. Now, we want to write this as a decimal. So again, we have 4 rows filled in, so that'll be a 4 in my 10ths place, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hundredths. So it appears that my answer for 0.73 minus 0.26 is 0.47. So let's go ahead and we're going to talk about what steps we would have to do if we wanted to do this calculation on paper instead of drawing it out every time. What are my steps? So my first step to do this on paper is going to be lining up the decimal points. We want to line them up right on top of each other. Then my next step is going to be fill in any extra zeros that we might need to make sure that there's something to subtract in every column. And then my last step is going to be to actually do the subtraction, and I want to subtract from right to left. When I do that, I need to remember when to borrow. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this example right here and try to do it following our steps. So we'll start out by writing 0.73, and I know that I need to line up my decimal points right vertically on top of each other. So here's my 0.73, and underneath it I'm going to write 0.26. So I now have my decimal points nicely lined up. Then I'm going to subtract. Okay, then our next step would be to fill in any extra zeros. but I already have this column totally complete, this column totally complete. I don't really have any holes where I need to fill in any extra zeros. But don't worry, we'll see some examples later where we get a chance to fill in extra zeros. So then our last step is subtracting from the right to the left and paying attention to when do I need to borrow. So starting on the far right, right here, I'm going to do 3 minus 6. Ooh, that doesn't sound so good. I can't take away 6 from 3 because 6 is too big. So this is when I'm going to need to borrow. So I'm going to go over here to my tenths place. I'm going to trade this in so that I've just got 6 tenths now. And each one of those tenths is 10 1/100ths. So when I take away a 1 from here, I can add 10 to my hundredths place. So now I have 13 hundredths. 13 hundredths minus 6 hundredths is going to give me 7. And then I've now completed my far right. Now I want to move over to the left. So I'm going to do 6 minus 2 is going to give me 4. And then I need to carry down my decimal point into my final answer. Okay. So now we are going to do an example with money. This is an excellent real-life time that we use decimal points. So again, I'm going to start by lining up my decimal points. So I've got $8.30, and I'm going to make sure that right underneath this decimal point, I write the decimal point for my second amount. So that'll be $4.75. And I will also end up having a decimal point right here in my final answer. And again, with money, we already have a 0 in the hundredths place because that's going to be where my cents are. And so I've got this column completely full, this column completely full, and this column completely full. So this is another example where I don't need to worry about filling in any zeros. So then I'll just go ahead and continue subtracting, starting on the right and moving over to the left. So starting on the far right, I have 0 minus 5. Again, 5 is bigger than 0, so we're going to need to borrow. We'll go to the tenths place and turn this 3 into a 2. And when I subtract 1 right here, that means I can take that tenth and trade it in for 10 1/100ths. And so now I have a total of 10 1/100ths that I can use to subtract this 5. So now I have 10 minus 5, give me 5, and 2 minus 7, oh no, so I'm running into trouble again. So I'm going to go over now to my ones place and bring this down to 7, and when I bring down this 1, that 1 is equal to 10 tenths, so I can bring that over here, just moving it over. So now I have 10 tenths plus the 2 tenths that I started with is 12 tenths. Minus the 7 is going to be 12 minus 7 gives me 5. And then I just have to do my ones, moving all the way over to the far left. 7 minus 4 will give me 3. So my final answer for this one is $3.55. Okay. So now we're going to have a practice problem, which means that we're going to give you a chance to try this problem before we finish it. So please pause the video here and try this problem on your own paper. Okay, so now that you've had a chance to try this on your own, I'm going to show us how to do it. Step number 1 is lining up our decimal points. So I'll start out just writing my first number, 425, a nice big decimal point. And I'll draw my vertical dotted line. So I want to make sure that my decimal point for the next one is right underneath that. So $1.30. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and subtract starting on the right and moving to the left. 5 minus 0 is 5. 2 minus 3, we're going to need to borrow for this one. So I'll go to my ones place, bring this down to a 3 so I can move over an extra 1, which is 10 tenths. 12 tenths minus 3 is going to give me 9 tenths. And then for my ones column, I've got 3 minus 1 will give me 2. Make sure that this decimal point stays vertically lined up like it is throughout the whole problem. And so my final answer is $2.95. Okay, so this next example is just a little bit different, but we'll start out by using the same steps. So I'll start out writing the first number, 1.2, and I'll line up my decimal points right on top of each other. So then underneath that I have 0.47, and I need to subtract. So in this problem, I'm seeing that the numbers aren't quite lining up. So this is where our second step is really important, that we fill in the zeros so that every column has something to subtract. Okay, so now we're ready to do our subtraction, starting on the right-hand side and moving over to the left. So we'll start out with 0 minus 7. I can't quite do that, so I'm going to have to borrow from the tenths place. So this is going to go down to a 1, which lets me bring over 10 1/100ths. And so now I have 10 1/100ths minus 7 1/100ths will give me 3. Then I've got 1/10 minus 4/10. Again, that number's too big. I can't take it out. So I'm going to have to borrow, which will bring this one down to a 0. And then I'll have 11/10. 11 minus 4 will give me 7. Fill in my decimal point, and then I have 0 minus 0. So my final answer is just going to be 0.73. So then let's go ahead and do another practice problem. Again, I'm going to pause for a minute so that you can pause your video and try this on your own paper. Okay, so again for this problem we want to start by lining up our decimal points. So I'll write 2.1, draw my vertical line, and then I will do 0.74, and I want to subtract. Our step number 2 is filling in all of the extra zeros, and this right here is not looking like a column that's all the way filled in, so I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 right here. So now we should be all set to go ahead and do our subtraction, starting on the right and moving over to the left. So 0 minus 4, that's another one, we're just getting stuck. So I'm going to have to borrow from this ones place, and give me a 0 right there for now, and 10 1/100ths. 10 1/100ths minus 4 is going to give me 6 1/100ths. And then 0 minus 7 is another sticky spot. I can't do 0 minus 7, so I'm going to go ahead and borrow from this 2. So this 2 will go down to a 1, letting me move, 1. Okay, so this 2 go down to a 1. And then I can go ahead and move the 1 over here. So now I have 10 tenths. So 10 tenths minus 7 is going to give me 3 tenths. And then the last column will be 1 minus 0, will just give me a 1. Fill in my decimal point, so my final answer right here will be 1.36. Okay, then we'll do one final example. Our final example, example 3, is going to start out with 1. And there isn't really a decimal point in this number, but we know that a decimal point always goes to the right of a whole number. So I can fill in my decimal point right here so that I know where to put the vertical line in my next number. So my next number is the decimal point and then 0, 0, 3, 6. That's what I'm subtracting. So on this one it looks like it's going to be really important for me to fill in my zeros. So there's a lot of columns where I just don't have anything lining up. So I'll fill in 0, 0, 0, 0, and a 0 right here to make my ones column all nice and lined up. Okay, so now we should be ready to start on the right hand side and move to the left and subtract every step of the way. So 0 minus 6, I can't do that, so I'm going to have to borrow from here. Well that's a problem, because I can't really borrow from 0. Can't really borrow from this 0. Can't really borrow from this 0. Oh, but this 0 could borrow from this 1. So if I borrowed from this, then I would have 10 right here. So now I can borrow 1 over. So now I can say that 10 minus 1 is going to leave me with 9, and I'll have 1 to bring over into the hundredths place. Now I've got a 10 right here, and I can borrow from that, leave me with a 9, and a 1 to move over into my thousandths place. And then I can cross out that, borrowing from my 10 in the thousandths place, leave me with a 9 in the thousandths place. And I can bring over another 10 into the 10,000ths place. So now I've got 10 minus 6 will leave me with 4. 9 minus 3 will leave me with 6. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 0 is 9. Right here we just have a 0 left, minus 0 will give me a 0. So our final answer will be 0 and 9,964 10,000ths. So that problem had a couple more digits in it and required a lot of borrowing. So now I'm going to let you do a practice that's going to require a lot of digits and a lot of borrowing. Okay, so just like before, I'm going to go ahead and line up my decimal points. Again, this is our ones place. The decimal point always goes to the right of the ones place. So that'll tell me where to put my vertical line. And then I can write the number underneath it, which will be 0.0024. That's the number that I'm subtracting. So our step number 2 is filling in all of the zeros. So I'll go ahead and put in 0, 0, 0, 0. I'll place some zeros on the bottom too, so that everything's lined up for my subtraction on the whole numbers. Okay, so now we should be all set to go ahead and start on the right and move to the left as we subtract. So again, I'm running this problem that 0 minus 4 is not something I can easily do. I've got all these zeros in the way before I can really borrow anything. So I'll go ahead and borrow from this 1, leaving me with a 0, and that 1 in the tens place can be traded in for a 10 in the ones place. Then this 10 in the ones place can be traded in for a 9 to allow me to bring 10 in the tenths place. Then I'll trade that in for a 9, allowing me to bring 10 over to the hundredths place. And then I will trade that in for a 9, allowing me to bring 1 over to the thousandths place. And then I will trade that in for another 9, which allows me to bring a 10 over into my last place, the 10,000ths place. So then 10 minus 4 will leave me with 6. 9 minus 2 will leave me with 7. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 0 is 9. Bring down my decimal point. 9 minus 0 is 9. And 0 minus 0 is 0. So, when we have a 0 out in front, you might remember from doing whole numbers that we don't really need that place anymore. So this is just a 9 in the ones place is just a 9, and we're left with 9.9976 for our final answer. So now we've completed everything in this lesson, but if you feel like you would like some practice, I have some more practice right here for you. So I'm going to go ahead and pause again so that you can stop the video now if you want, or if you'd like, you can try these problems, and I won't explain them out loud, but I will show you how to get the correct answer as we continue forward.